Thomas was in shock when he regained consciousness. The place he was in was unfamiliar. In fact, the last thing he remembered was riding his motorcycle. Suddenly, he heard a very familiar sound. It was a woman's voice, unmistakably the voice of his beloved wife, Linda. In that moment, Thomas wanted nothing more than to hug her. He wanted to tell her he was back. Judging by how close her voice sounded, she was very near. As soon as Thomas opened his eyes, he noticed medical equipment all around him, tubes and wires connected to his body. The door to his room was open, and he could hear his wife's voice coming from the hallway. She was speaking softly, but Thomas could hear everything. "Don't worry, everything is going according to plan," she said. Thomas listened, confused. What was she talking about? "He's not going to wake up. His mother has no reason to interfere. I'm his wife, and I have more rights than she does." Linda continued. Thomas couldn't believe his ears. What did she mean? It was a terrifying moment for Thomas, who had just come out of intensive care. He wanted to get up, but he couldn't even move. Then he heard footsteps approaching. A man's voice followed. Linda asked, "How much longer does he have to suffer, doctor? Don't you think it would be better to let him go?" The doctor replied, "He might recover. His parents believe in him, probably as much as you do." "Yes, doctor, I believe in him," Linda said, "but it hurts me to see him like this." "Don't worry, go home. I'll call you if anything happens," said the doctor. "All right," she replied, and then asked the doctor to leave, so she could be alone with her husband for a few minutes. At that moment, Linda stepped aside and tried to press some of the buttons on the machines, keeping Thomas alive. "How long are you going to fight? Just let go and rest in peace already," she whispered. Thomas tried to speak, but he could barely make a sound. Instead of words, a strange noise came out. The woman turned toward him and suddenly saw that his eyes were open. She immediately called for the doctor. The doctor returned with several colleagues who began examining Thomas. They drew his blood, connected new devices, and talked among themselves. "Ma'am, he's still in a coma. I'm very sorry," the doctor told her. The woman kept wondering whether what she saw was real or just her imagination. Then they all left. Only a young nurse remained with Thomas. She moistened a cotton swab and placed it on his lips to hydrate them. Later that day, she did the same thing again, and that's when she noticed he slightly opened his mouth and began nervously squeezing the swab to get water into his mouth. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. He was really waking up. She called the doctor to examine the patient, and only then did the staff realize that Thomas had come out of his coma. "We'll call your wife. This is going to be great news for your family," the doctor said with a smile. The man, barely able to speak, slowly and with effort said, "Please, don't tell her anything. I beg you." The doctor paused for a moment, realizing he couldn't argue. Considering the patient's condition, later, while the nurse was feeding Thomas, he started explaining why he didn't want his wife to know. "I've always treated her well," he said. "I never limited her financially. I let her live the way she wanted. And now, after my accident, she feels free and has started looking for someone else. On top of that, she wants to keep everything I worked hard to earn. Just the thought of it makes me feel ashamed. I want to tell her how wrong she is. And now, she won't get a single cent from me in the divorce." A few days passed, and Thomas began feeling better. One day, the doctor came in, sat by his side, and they had a long conversation. The doctor asked, "What are you going to do now?" Thomas replied, "I never thought an accident would help me truly see people for who they are. Now I have a plan too." The next day, Linda received a phone call. It was from the hospital. Someone told her it was over and that she was now a widow. She couldn't believe it and rushed to the ICU to see if it was true. When she arrived, she tried to act like a grieving wife. As she entered the room, a nurse who was cleaning said, "Thomas isn't here anymore." Linda was overjoyed. She wanted to smile, but held it in and put on a sad face. She turned around and left the room with great delight. Thomas was standing on the steps of the hospital, watching his wife with a wide smile on his face. She said something into her phone and immediately hailed a taxi. Deciding it was time to act, Thomas got into a taxi and headed home. As he opened the front door, he heard an unfamiliar voice. The living room door was slightly open, and inside stood a young man. "Let's light the fireplace, baby, and turn the music up," the man said. "We should celebrate this," said the stranger. "Finally, I'm free and I've got the money," Linda shouted joyfully. Thomas couldn't believe his ears. Anger surged through him as he entered and saw his wife wearing nothing but a towel. She was stunned, as if she had seen a ghost, and that might have been exactly what she thought. "You have a few minutes to gather your things and get out of my house," Thomas said coldly, "because my security will be here soon. And if you're still here, they'll throw you out." "Please, let me explain, darling. I thought you were dead. I didn't know how to handle the pain," Linda whispered. "You only cared about my money," Thomas replied. "And the moment I slipped into a coma, you went looking for someone else, maybe even before that. So get out, and don't you dare ask for anything in the divorce." Realizing she had no chance of getting him back, Linda started screaming and insulting him. But the guards arrived and escorted both her and her lover out of the house. Thomas then called specialists and had all the locks in the house changed within a few hours. He also instructed the guards not to let anyone in except his parents while he continued his recovery. Back at the hospital, Thomas tried not to dwell on the fact that one unfortunate accident had completely changed his life. But in a way, it had also led him to meet another woman. During the weeks Thomas spent in the hospital, the nurse visited him often, asking how he felt. He talked to her about everything, and that helped him keep dark thoughts at bay. After his release, Thomas finalized the divorce. Linda, of course, tried to claim part of the house and other shared assets, but the property had been used as collateral for a large business loan. If she wanted half, she would also inherit half the debt. Faced with that, Linda signed a waiver giving up all claims. After the divorce, she cursed Thomas and said things no rational person would ever say, but he ignored her completely. Thomas realized he missed the nurse. He had never had the chance to properly thank her for her kindness, so he returned to the hospital and handed her a bouquet of roses, a gift for the woman who genuinely cared about his well-being. "I wanted to ask you out," he said with a smile, "but if you say no, I'll understand." "My shift ends in an hour," she replied. "A walk sounds like the perfect rehab after your surgery, don't you think?" They went for a walk together, and that's how their love story began. Dear viewers, what would you have done if you were in Thomas's place? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. See you next time.